Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Change Management, the podcast in which I talk about everything you need to know about the people side of change. My name is Isabella Brusati and I'm going to be your host. Today, we are going to talk about the different types of change as there is a little bit of confusion and lots of practitioners and also lots of organizations think that there is one size fits all. So it's just like, we learn a methodology or a model and we apply it in the same way for whatever kind of change. Not exactly the case. Well, first of all, I would like to identify the difference between change management and project management, very high level, because it's not unusual for organization to make a little bit of confusion when it comes to the two. Project management attains to the technical side of change. So, for example, if you want to develop a software, the change management is not going to be about the development itself. That's actually project management, because project management attains to designing, developing, and deploying the solution. But it itself is not enough, because if you want to make the best out of the new software, you would need for the end users to adopt and use it. And that's actually where the people side of change comes in. It's all about adoption and usage. When it comes to change, so the types of change, again, it can be something more complex or it can be something, I'm not saying easy, because usually change is not easy, but it can be a little bit easier. Usually the most complex type of change is the one that attains to change the culture of an organization. So cultural change. Why? Because actually it's about changing how we do things here in the organization. I'm a massive fan of Edgar Schein, who unfortunately left us earlier this year. I'm going to put actually the link in the description box to some of the amazing books that he wrote. And he was probably one of the best writers and authors and connoisseurs of cultural change. And Edgar Schein came up with the model of the cultural iceberg. So, for example, when you go into an organization, you can see from the artifacts, so in the iceberg, what's outside the water. Things like whether this organization has got marble floors, if there is a super swanky reception, if people have got their own cubicles, or if it is something a little bit more, laid back. It's something where, people go and to work with sneakers and this kind of stuff. Now, it's hard to change artifacts, but it's even harder to change what's well below water, which is actually the values. The values basically can be changed, but it's not something that is going to happen overnight. It can take years. Again, there are some research that said that on an average, it can take between 3 and 5 years to change the company culture. And the risks of not getting it right are significantly high. Cultural change can be actually put within the category of organizational change. And in organizational change, we can find not only cultural change, but also, for example, mergers and acquisitions. Again, the two are used interchangeably, but they are not the same thing. A merger is when, for example, we got company A and company B, and they get together and A plus B equals C. So we got a new organization called C. Whilst an acquisition is where company A, for example, acquires company B, and in some cases, basically, there is also quite a lot of level of autonomy when it comes to the company that has been acquired. Again, there can be a lot of autonomy or a little bit. Again, here, in addition to the problems of or challenges of integrating and standardizing processes, procedures, softwares, and the rest of it, there is usually the cultural change that is an element that is very, very often played down or not even taken into consideration. Again, within the organizational change, we also have cost-cutting exercises. And unfortunately, something that it's happening a lot nowadays. So restructuring fundamentally is when the company, in order to cut costs, decide to basically let people go. So it's all about layoffs and redundancies. Again, here there is, in addition, of course, to the legal side of the operation. So basically the fact that, depending on where the company is based, legislation is going to differ. And in some geographies, redundancies require a much more complex process compared to others. There is also an element that is very frequently neglected, which is the survivors. So, again, there is a lot of research that shows that it's not infrequent for people that stay with the organization to feel guilty because they have not been made redundant. So their job has not been made redundant. And most often than not, companies have got a quite abrupt way of dealing with this, saying you're lucky that you still have a job, which is not actually the best way to deal with restructuring and with people that actually do still have a job and therefore are working for the organization. Another type of change that is within organizational change is the change of an operation model. And probably the most frequent of these changes is digital transformation. It's interesting because, again, here there is a lot of misunderstanding as to what is digitalization and digital transformation. I've actually written a lot on this topic. So if you go into my LinkedIn account, you will find basically a whole entire series on digital transformation, as I'm very passionate about the topic. And lots of organizations think that just because they are implementing a new ERP or CRM, they are actually doing digital transformation. No, that's not the case, because digital transformation comes with a change of an operating model. And that's actually what makes it really, really complex, because usually it pervades the whole entire organization. And basically, it's touching upon not only the people that work in the organization, but also the customers. It touches upon the optimization of processes, procedures, and then, of course, on the people side, so the change management side. However, very often companies think that they are doing a digital transformation, whilst in fact they are simply implementing a new ERP, and they are dealing with it as if it's just project management. Then, 87% of digital transformation fail. This is not surprising because if basically it's just like I want to go, as I live in Milan, and I want to go to Oslo. And instead, I think that I'm actually going there by plane, but in reality, I'm actually walking there. So you would see that it's going to take much more time, and I'm not going to make it in 3 hours, but maybe if I'm lucky, I'm going to make it in 3 months. Same thing is actually underestimating the effort that it takes to implement a change because it was not correctly identified. Another change that I'm seeing a lot, and this is something that started with COVID, is basically relocation of the workforce. With COVID, basically the myth that lots of jobs cannot be done from home or remotely, the myth has been busted because, unless of course someone is a surgeon, well, in that case, you cannot do surgery, on the internet via Zoom, clearly not. But many other jobs, it's perfectly fine to actually go into the office once or twice a week, or maybe also once or twice every fortnight. And some companies are actually now requiring employees to go back to the office. And in fact, we're seeing lots of resignations. But there are actually companies that are valuing the fact that they can offer a hybrid way of working. And this means that companies realize that they do not need these massive offices anymore because, for example, if you got a workforce of 1,000 individuals, and you got them coming to work, for example, a couple of times a week, if they do not come to work the same day, maybe you can have 100 people on Monday, 200 people on Tuesday, etc., etc. So you don't need all that space. And I've recently visited a client, and they have a historic building, and they were telling me that because of the new way of working, actually they are renting out two of the floors. So here we got basically also changes around the way people work, and of course with new changes about how to communicate in the best possible way, how to keep people engaged. Also, another challenge is how do you get, especially people that are entering the workforce, to learn? Because it's not easy. As when you are in the office, you can talk to your colleagues, you can observe. But if you're doing it from home, sometimes people feel a little bit uncomfortable on ringing their boss every, I don't know, hour, saying, hey, how do I do this or how do I do that? So a new way of working linked to working from home is now giving space and opportunities for this new exciting way of working. I will actually go through other podcasts in which I'm going to talk about this topic in more detail. But as you can see, just by going through some of the types of change, we can see that some of the challenges are actually different. And usually everything boils down to understanding what type of change the company is embarking into, identifying what success is. I mean, when I deliver training or, I talk to clients, it's not unusual. I say, yeah, but what do you want to achieve? And I always, make this example of sometimes people, also when you read on the internet, we want to become the employer of choice, but what does that mean? So it's actually getting very, very clear what you want to do and what you want to achieve. One of the cultural changes that I'm seeing on actually going quite pear-shaped, for example, is agile. This is something that came about in 2017, 18, and was when agile started to become quite popular. And again, when I'm talking about agile, and what do you mean with agile? It means doing things quicker. That's actually not agile. Agile is actually a cultural mindset, a shift of the cultural mindset. So there are lots of companies, again, that are setting themselves up for failure because they are not basically defining success in the right way, because, again, they have not identified what type of change you are going to deal with. So it's very, very important to define what type of change you are dealing with, define success and the KPIs, because what is not defined doesn't get measured. And also spend time with the change readiness assessment. Spend time understanding who is being impacted and how, rather than just jump into, okay, let's send them an email and invite them to do a training session and we will be done. That's not change management. So I hope that you found this episode useful. There is some food for thought. Please feel free to leave your comments in the comment box below. Again, if you disagree, please feel free to share your experience. And if you agree, again, please let me know why you agree, and if you got some examples that you would like to share with the Let's Talk About Change community. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.